Pause, because the next sentence will hurt. The world does not break you because you're weak. It breaks you because you refuse to become the version of yourself that cannot be broken. And that version is inside you, waiting, suffocating, buried under years of softness, hesitation, blind loyalty, and wounds you never allowed to harden into wisdom. Machiavelli understood that the world is not shaped by kindness. It is shaped by force, by intention, by discipline, by those who refuse to let life decide their value. And somewhere along your path, the world studied you. It saw your gentleness, it saw your patience, it saw your open heart, it saw your willingness to give chances, it saw your fear of disappointing others, it saw your loyalty even when it was not returned. And it recognized something dangerous, not your weakness, but your potential. Because the world knows that a strong soul trapped inside a soft identity is easy to break. It uses betrayal to test you. It uses loss to wake you. It uses disappointment to corner you. It uses pain to shape you. And every time you ignored the lesson, life pressed harder. You trusted people who showed you their patterns clearly. You forgave actions that should have ended the connection immediately. You allowed access to your heart without demanding responsibility. You explained yourself to people who enjoyed misunderstanding you. You lowered your standards so others could reach you. You carried emotional weight that wasn't yours. You stretched yourself thin to hold together relationships that were already breaking. And the world kept breaking you because you never learned to break your softness. You believed goodness would protect you. You believed loyalty would shield you. You believed caring deeply would inspire others to care deeply too. But Machiavelli would tell you the truth without hesitation. Goodness without strength is prey. Loyalty without boundaries is slavery. Love without self-respect is self-destruction. And caring without strategy is an invitation for others to use you. The world doesn't destroy the strong. It ignores them. It doesn't break the ruthless. It fears them. It doesn't disrespect the disciplined. It adjusts to them. It doesn't waste time on those who enforce their worth. It moves out of their way. The world breaks the ones who live with an open chest in a battlefield. The ones who hope when they should observe. The ones who stay silent when they should walk away. The ones who confuse endurance with strength. You did not fail. You simply played the wrong role. You were the healer in a world full of takers. You were the giver in a world full of hungry hands. You were the loyal one among opportunists. You were the soft one among predators. And life shattered you not because it hates you, but because it refuses to let you continue living unprotected. Pain is the architect of transformation. Every wound you suffered was a blueprint. Every betrayal was a map. Every disappointment was a mirror. Every heartbreak was a doorway into the version of you who refuses to be broken again. But you resisted that doorway. You held on to the softer self because it felt familiar, because it felt noble, because it felt safe. But the truth is this: that version of you was not safe. That version of you was the target. And the world kept hitting the same exposed areas because you refused to shield them. You refused to toughen them. You refused to evolve. Machiavelli believed that suffering reveals where a person must grow. That pain is not punishment but instruction. That wounds are invitations for rebirth. And that only the ruthless rise from their ashes with direction. You must become someone who no longer allows emotional storms to drown them. Someone who can stand alone without collapsing. Someone who sets boundaries without shaking. Someone who does not chase validation. Someone who does not beg for loyalty. Someone who does not soften themselves to make others comfortable. Someone who is kind but not accessible. Someone who is loving but not blind. Someone who is patient but not passive. Someone who is compassionate but not forgiving of disrespect. The world respects the person who respects themselves enough to walk away, enough to say no, enough to cut off access, enough to enforce silence, enough to choose distance over drama, enough to protect their peace without apology. Strength is not loud. Strength is not cruel. Strength is not dominance. Strength is quiet control, calm observation, steady discipline, emotional self-respect. Strength is the refusal to break where you once did. Strength is the stillness others cannot shake. Strength is the standard you set when you finally understand your own value. You do not become ruthless by hurting others. You become ruthless by refusing to let others hurt you the same way again. By refusing to open doors that should remain closed. By refusing to sit at tables where you are no longer respected. By refusing to be available to people who disappear when you need them. By refusing to carry the emotional burdens of people who would never carry yours. By refusing to abandon yourself in the name of love. You evolve by shedding the version of you the world kept breaking. You evolve by becoming the version that does not apologize for existing. The version that does not vibrate with fear but with clarity. The version that sees clearly. Moves deliberately, speaks minimally, and carries a silence that demands respect. And as you step deeper into that identity, the world begins to shift around you, not through force, but through the quiet, undeniable presence of someone who can no longer be broken. Someone life no longer tests, someone people no longer play with, someone who has transformed their wounds into weapons, their pain into perception, their heartbreak into boundaries, their silence into power. And that transformation begins the moment you stop resisting the truth you already feel in your bones. The world is not kind, you must become strong. The world is not fair, you must become strategic. The world is not soft, you must stop being breakable. And now that you understand the world breaks the version of you that refuses to evolve, you must see the machinery behind that destruction. Because the world does not break you randomly. It breaks you in specific ways, predictable ways. Brutal ways, ways Machiavelli saw repeated in every kingdom, every court, every battlefield, every human life. The world breaks the ones who move with open hearts and unprotected minds. It breaks the ones who cling to hope instead of truth. It breaks the ones who mistake patience for loyalty. It breaks the ones who choose emotional comfort over emotional clarity. It breaks the ones who give people the benefit of the doubt even after the doubt has already shown its face. And you were one of them. The world saw your softness like a crack in armor. It saw your kindness like an open door. It saw your forgiveness like permission. It saw your silence like surrender. And once the world identifies a weakness, it presses on it relentlessly. Not because it hates you, but because pressure exposes what must be strengthened. You learned this the hard way. Every person who took advantage of you did so because you trained them to believe you would forgive anything. Every person who disrespected you did so because you showed them disrespect had no cost. Every person who used you did so because they sensed you would rather break than walk away. Every person who disappeared when you needed them did so because you allowed their absence to return as if nothing happened. The world breaks you by introducing you to people who mirror your blind spots. The selfish one reveals your lack of boundaries. The liar reveals your desire to believe words instead of patterns. The manipulator reveals your fear of being alone. The inconsistent one reveals your willingness to settle. The betrayer reveals the part of you that overvalues loyalty. Machiavelli believed pain is the world's purest form of truth, because pain does not lie, pain does not flatter, pain does not manipulate, pain exposes, and the world used pain to force you to see yourself, to see your patterns, to see your weaknesses, to see the distance between who you are and who you must become if you refuse to be broken again. The world breaks you by exhausting your illusions. It breaks you through disappointment until you finally stop expecting people to be what they never were. It breaks you through betrayal until you finally stop giving loyalty to the unworthy. It breaks you through rejection until you finally understand your value does not depend on acceptance. It breaks you through loss until you finally stop fearing endings that were necessary for your evolution. The world breaks you by removing the people you were willing to destroy yourself for. It breaks you when someone you trusted wounds you deeply enough that you are forced to confront the truth you avoided. It breaks you when you give someone everything and they treat it as nothing, because that is the moment your transformation begins. Machiavelli believed a person becomes powerful only after they lose what they thought they could not live without. You needed to be broken, not to become weaker, but to become impossible to break again. But here is the darker truth. The world also breaks you through your own hands, through the way you abandon yourself for others, through the way you silence your needs to keep peace, through the way you apologize for things that were never your fault, through the way you dim your light to avoid intimidating fragile people, through the way you accept the bare minimum because you fear losing even that, through the way you betray yourself in the name of love. These were the fractures the world targeted. These were the openings that let people in who never deserved access. These were the weaknesses you protected more fiercely than your strengths. Machiavelli taught that the enemy you ignore is the enemy that destroys you. And the first enemy you ignored was your own softness. But here lies your advantage. Everything the world used to break you became a blueprint. Every wound became a lesson. Every betrayal became a map. Every disappointment became a filter. Every rejection became a redirection. Every ending became a liberation disguised as loss. Your softness had to shatter for your strength to emerge. Your illusions had to burn for your clarity to rise. Your hope had to collapse for your self-respect to rebuild. The world did not break you because you were weak. It broke you because you were unfinished. And life refuses to leave a powerful person half-built. The breaking was the construction. The pain was the chiseling. The loss was the sharpening. The betrayal was the cleansing. You are not the victim of the world testing you. You are the product of the world preparing you to stop explaining yourself, preparing you to stop tolerating disrespect, preparing you to stop offering softness to those who sharpen their knives behind your back, preparing you to stop negotiating your worth, preparing you to walk through life with a gaze that sees more, a heart that gives less, and a mind that reacts to nothing immediately. This is how the world breaks people like you, until you learn to stop breaking and start becoming ruthless. Not vicious, not cold, but unwilling to abandon yourself ever again, unwilling to let guilt override your boundaries, unwilling to let fear silence your truth, unwilling to let attachment outweigh self-respect, unwilling to let anyone treat you as optional while you treat them as essential. And once this shift happens, the world can press, push, test, and provoke, but it can no longer break you. Because the version you are rising into has no cracks left for the world to exploit. The breaking is over. The molding has begun. And now that you understand how the world breaks you and why it does, you must face the truth Machiavelli saw in every powerful figure. The world only stops breaking you when you stop offering it the parts of yourself that can be broken. This is where becoming ruthless begins. Not ruthless in cruelty, but ruthless in self-protection, ruthless in discipline, ruthless in the way you refuse to negotiate your worth. The old version of you believed that strength was loud. That strength was explosive anger. That strength was proving yourself. But real strength, the kind Machiavelli respected, is quiet, controlled, calculated. It is the stillness inside you when chaos surrounds you. It is the silence you choose when someone tries to provoke you. It is the boundary you enforce without raising your voice. It is the decision you make not out of emotion but out of clarity. The first element of becoming ruthless is emotional control. Emotional control is not suppression, it is power. It is the ability to feel everything but reveal nothing, to breathe while others panic, to think while others react, to observe while others expose themselves. Your silence becomes a weapon, your pause becomes dominance, your calm becomes authority. Emotional control makes you unpredictable, and unpredictability makes you dangerous, because people cannot use your emotions against you if they cannot read them. They cannot manipulate you if they cannot predict you. They cannot break you if they cannot access what moves you. The second element of becoming ruthless is selective access. You stop letting everyone into your mind, your heart, your life. You no longer give vulnerable parts of yourself to unproven people. You no longer allow those who drained you once to drain you twice. You no longer keep doors open for people who walk in and out as if your soul were a public hallway. Machiavelli believed power is measured by what you allow, not what you chase. And becoming ruthless means you allow less, much less. The third element is enforced boundaries, not spoken boundaries. Enforced boundaries. Talking about boundaries is a weakness. Enforcing them is power. When someone crosses a line, you do not repeat yourself. You do not warn them. You do not argue. You simply close the door, quietly, permanently. People learn more from the access they lose than the lectures you give, and your refusal to negotiate your boundaries teaches them everything they need to know. The fourth element is detachment. Emotional detachment does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop collapsing. It means you stop attaching your peace to someone else's chaos. It means you stop trying to control outcomes you cannot control. It means you stop seeking closure from people who are incapable of giving it. It means you remain centered even when someone pulls away. Machiavelli believed the strongest person is the one who can walk away without tremor, and detachment gives you that ability. The fifth element is silence, strategic silence, the kind that makes people reveal themselves. The kind that forces others to fill the empty space with confessions. The kind that exposes intentions without you lifting a finger. The kind that protects your mind because you no longer waste your breath explaining yourself. Silence sharpens your presence. It makes your words heavier when you finally speak. It creates a psychological question mark in the minds of others. They wonder what you are thinking. They wonder what you know. They wonder what you will do. And that uncertainty becomes power. The sixth element is discipline. Discipline over impulses, discipline over desires, discipline over reactions, discipline over the internal voice that begs for comfort. Machiavelli believed discipline was the backbone of all power, because the undisciplined collapse under temptation, emotion, or distraction. But the disciplined become unstoppable. Every routine you build, every habit you control, every temptation you reject, every standard you uphold. These build the ruthless identity the world can no longer shake. The seventh element is walking away, not as a threat. As a principle, you walk away the first time someone shows you they cannot value you. You walk away from disrespect. You walk away from inconsistency. You walk away from environments where your presence is not appreciated. You walk away from conversations designed to provoke you. You walk away from situations that drain your stability. Walking away is not losing. Walking away is refusing to lose yourself. The eighth element is internal sovereignty. You stop waiting for approval. You stop waiting for understanding. You stop waiting for permission. You stop waiting for someone to see your worth before you claim it. You become your own judge, your own validation, your own foundation. Machiavelli believed the sovereign individual was the only one the world truly respected. And sovereignty begins when your opinion of yourself becomes louder than anyone else's. The ninth element of becoming ruthless is knowing your value so deeply that nothing external can define it. Not praise, not rejection, not admiration, not betrayal. Your worth becomes internal, untouchable, unshakable, independent. You stop rising when people love you and falling when they don't. You become stable in a way the old you never imagined, and stability is power. The final element is transformation, the quiet kind, the kind that happens in silence. The kind that appears slowly on the surface but burns fiercely within. You stop arguing, you stop explaining, you stop proving, you stop reacting, you stop begging, you stop chasing. You become the version of yourself that does not flinch, does not break, does not shrink, does not apologize for existing. You become the version that the world cannot break because there is nothing left inside you that is fragile. You are no longer the person who was shaped by pain. You are the person who used pain as material for rebirth. This is what becoming ruthless truly means. The shift from breakable to untouchable, from emotional chaos to emotional precision, from softness that destroys you to strength that protects you. From the past version of you that life crushed into dust to the new version rising from it with steady eyes and unshakable standards. And now that you understand the ruthless identity you are building, you must see the psychological shift that begins to radiate from you the moment you step into this new version of yourself. Because becoming ruthless is not just an internal upgrade. It is an energetic revolution. It is the moment the world stops seeing you as someone who bends and starts seeing you as someone who cannot be moved. Machiavelli believed true power is not declared. It is felt. It is sensed before it is spoken. It is recognized before it is tested. And when you transform into someone who no longer collapses under pressure, no longer chases what walks away, no longer tolerates disrespect, no longer wastes words, no longer hides behind softness, your presence begins to change. It becomes heavier, sharper, more defined. People feel something different around you even if they do not understand what changed. Your silence gains weight, your gaze grows still, your movements slow down. Your breathing steadies. Your reactions disappear. There is no panic in your voice, no nervousness in your energy, no desperation in your presence. And this calmness becomes unsettling to those who once benefited from your lack of boundaries. The first shift in this new identity is the aura of control you naturally emit. People sense you are not emotionally accessible in the way you once were. They sense your heart is no longer an unlocked door anyone can walk through. They sense you have learned to protect your mind, your time, your energy. And because access to you becomes limited, your value multiplies instantly. People start watching their behavior around you. They adjust their tone. They measure their words. They avoid testing your patience because they sense something they never sensed before: consequence. The second shift is the collapse of manipulative power over you. Your lack of reaction becomes more intimidating than your anger ever was. Those who once triggered you now face silence. Those who once baited you into conflict now face calm. Those who once controlled your emotions now face a wall they cannot penetrate. Machiavelli believed unpredictability creates respect because people fear what they cannot read. And your new emotional stillness becomes unreadable. Your silence becomes a strategy no one knows how to counter. The third shift is the way people confess themselves around you without you asking anything. Silence has a way of making others expose what they try to hide. They will start explaining themselves before you question them. They will reveal their guilt without you accusing them. They will justify their intentions before you evaluate them. They will admit their weaknesses because your calm gaze makes them feel transparent. This is psychological dominance without effort. The fourth shift is the disappearance of people who once depended on your softness. The needy fade first. The entitled fade next. The manipulative try once and then leave quietly. The inconsistent no longer bother showing up. They sense your energy is no longer a playground. They sense your heart is no longer a resource. They sense your patience is no longer infinite. They sense you are no longer someone who can be bent through guilt or attachment. Machiavelli wrote that growth naturally exposes parasites, and your evolution reveals those who were feeding on the weaker version of you. The fifth shift is the rise of solitude, but not loneliness. You begin to prefer your own company because your peace becomes more valuable than companionship. Your silence becomes more nourishing than conversation. Your inner world becomes stronger than external validation. You stop depending on others to feel stable. You stop needing noise to feel alive. You stop giving energy to connections that no longer align with your identity. This solitude sharpens you. It strengthens your intuition. It increases your clarity. It deepens your discipline. Machiavelli believed that leaders who learned to stand alone became impossible to control. And this is where your power solidifies. The sixth shift is the emergence of respect in places where you once felt invisible. Not because you became louder, but because you became harder to access, harder to manipulate, harder to read, harder to influence. People instinctively respect what they do not fully understand. And your new emotional restraint creates that atmosphere. You are no longer the predictable giver. You are no longer the easy target. You are no longer the person who explains their pain in hopes of being understood. You are no longer the one who stays when you should leave. You are no longer the one who fears losing people. Now they fear losing you. The seventh shift is the newfound precision in your decision-making. You no longer choose out of loneliness. You no longer choose out of guilt. You no longer choose out of fear. You choose out of alignment. You choose out of standards. You choose out of self-respect. You choose out of clarity. And this precision makes you dangerous in the best way, because a person who chooses with clarity is a person who cannot be controlled. Machiavelli believed clarity was a greater weapon than aggression, because clarity eliminates chaos, and without chaos, no one can manipulate you. The eighth shift is the transformation of your body language. Without forcing anything, your posture becomes straighter, your movements slower, your expressions minimal, your presence grounded. You no longer rush, you no longer fidget, you no longer shrink. You walk like someone who has nothing to prove. You stand like someone who doesn't need validation. You speak like someone who knows their value. And this body language communicates what words cannot. You have become someone the world cannot shake, someone whose peace cannot be stolen, someone whose emotional core is solid enough to endure storms silently, someone whose presence alone demands respect. And the final shift is this: life stops pushing you the way it once did, not because life becomes easier, but because you become stronger. You stop attracting chaos because you no longer resonate with it. You stop attracting takers because you no longer bleed freely. You stop repeating cycles because your awareness cuts them before they grow. You stop suffering from the same lessons because you finally learned them. Machiavelli believed the world bows to those who master themselves. And the moment you become ruthless in your self-respect, the world that once broke you becomes powerless. And now that your presence, boundaries, silence, and discipline have transformed into something untouchable, you must understand what it truly means to become the version of yourself that cannot be broken. Because the final stage is not about appearing strong. It is about becoming internally unshakable. It is not about intimidating others. It is about no longer being intimidated by life itself. Machiavelli believed that the most powerful individual is the one who has mastered their inner world to such a degree that nothing external can destabilize them. And this is what your transformation leads you toward. The world once pushed you because you were easy to move. It once broke you because your identity depended on others. It once shattered you because you attached your worth to people who were never worthy of holding it. But now something irreversible has happened within you. Your self-worth no longer hangs from the hands of others. Your peace no longer relies on who stays or who leaves. Your stability no longer depends on circumstances. Your strength no longer fluctuates with disappointment. You no longer crumble when someone withdraws affection. You no longer bend just to avoid conflict. You no longer silence your needs to keep someone comfortable. You no longer chase answers from those who enjoy withholding them. You no longer fight to be understood by those committed to misunderstanding you. The unbreakable version of you rises the moment you realize you are responsible for protecting your own heart, not through walls, but through standards, not through anger, but through clarity, not through cruelty, but through selective access, not through fear, but through sovereignty. Machiavelli believed sovereignty begins when you stop expecting the world to behave gently and begin behaving powerfully. And now your power is quiet. It is not displayed. It is not advertised. It does not need attention. It does not seek validation. It is something people feel when they stand near you. They feel the difference in your silence. They feel the steadiness in your breath. They feel the caution rise inside them before they speak carelessly. They feel your presence not because you demand it, but because your energy gives them no other choice. The unbreakable, you become someone who no longer reacts to provocation, someone who no longer explains yourself to small minds, someone who no longer wastes time proving loyalty to the disloyal, someone who no longer loses sleep over people who sleep peacefully after hurting you, someone who no longer bleeds for people who never offered a drop in return, someone who no longer shrinks to make others feel bigger, This version of you is not cruel. This version of you is disciplined, honored, centered, aware, someone who does not collapse under the weight of life but stands taller because of it. And the world, which once broke you, now shifts around you because it cannot penetrate the core you rebuilt. The people who once underestimated you now measure their words. The people who once ignored your value now recognize they lost something rare. The people who once played games with your emotions now realize you have mastered the one skill they cannot defeat: emotional independence. Machiavelli believed that the strongest revenge is the person you become after someone tries to ruin you. Not the anger, not the confrontation, not the retaliation, but the evolution, because the betrayer is trapped in the same self-destructive cycle. The emotionally chaotic remain chaotic. The manipulators remain empty. The inconsistent remain lost. But you, forged by everything that once hurt you, step forward with a clarity they will never understand. The final transformation is this: you move through life without fear, not because life is kinder, but because you are stronger. You do not fear losing people because you do not lose yourself trying to keep them. You do not fear endings because endings are simply doors closing on chapters that no longer match your identity. You do not fear rejection because rejection is redirection towards something aligned with your worth. You do not fear silence because silence is now part of your power. You do not fear being alone because solitude is where you sharpen your mind. You do not fear betrayal because anyone who betrays you removes themselves from the privilege of being in your life. You do not fear heartbreak because your heart is no longer built on others. It is built on you. And the world, which once took advantage of your softness, now respects the strength you built in the shadows. A strength that does not shout, a strength that does not break, a strength that does not crumble, a strength that does not seek revenge because it has become the revenge. The world becomes powerless not because it changed, but because you changed. You removed the hooks it once used to pull you apart. You removed the fears it once used to control you. You removed the illusions it once used to blind you. You removed the weaknesses it once targeted. And now you stand as someone the world can no longer break, someone life can no longer manipulate, someone people can no longer diminish. This is the identity Machiavelli believed only a few ever reach. The identity forged through pain, sharpened through clarity, strengthened through boundaries, and completed through ruthless self-respect. The identity of someone who outgrew the version of themselves the world once broke. The identity of someone who finally learned that the world does not bow to kindness. It bows to strength. And now that strength is you.